Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about a crime drama film called The Good Nurse from 2022. Enjoy your viewing. The film begins in a hospital in 1996. One of the patients has a cardiac arrest. The medical staff begins resuscitation. The doctor who was the first to arrive at the alarm is watching the process from the side. This is the main character named Charlie Cullen. The doctors are unable to do anything but state the time of the patient's death. The movie is set in 2003 at Parkfield Hospital. The main character, Amy Logren, works here as a nurse. She takes care of patients and speaks politely to them and visitors. However, the manager doesn't like her kindness and indulgence, and Amy is reprimanded for it. To make it easier for her to be on duty at night, an assistant is hired for the ward. While caring for a bedridden patient, the heroine has a cardiomyopathy attack. She has to rest in an empty ward. In the morning, when she returns home, she walks her daughters to school, pays for a nanny, and goes to a doctor's appointment. The cardiologist confronts her with the fact that she needs a heart transplant, otherwise she will die of a heart attack. At the same time, she cannot take a sick leave because she has not yet earned health insurance. When she starts her shift, Amy meets a newcomer, Charlie Cullen. She shows him around the hospital, and he shares stories about his previous jobs. Together, they visit a patient with an acute allergic reaction to give her medicine. After visiting the patients, the film's protagonists have lunch, discussing family matters. They each have 2 children. The conversation is interrupted by a call to the ward. Charlie offers to take over for his colleague, which makes her feel extremely positive. However, when she returns home, all the positive feelings are negated by her daughter's tantrum about her clothes. At work, she suffers from another health problem, which Charlie notices. She tells him about her illness and asks him not to tell anyone, otherwise she will be fired. A co-worker agrees to help her for the 4 months it takes to get insurance. The relationship between them gradually improves. Charlie drives Amy to work, and they discuss personal matters. However, the new working day is spoiled by the news of the death of a paralyzed patient whom the heroine was caring for. While the nurse talks to the deceased's husband, the doctor puts her body back in order. The action moves forward 7 weeks. 2 detectives, Baldwin and Braun, are discussing a mysterious death in a hospital, the cause of which has not yet been determined. They arrive at the institution's board of trustees to discuss the incident. The police do not understand why they were called here because of an individual and fatal reaction to medication, but these are the rules. The relatives managed to get rid of the woman's body, so an autopsy to determine the cause of death is impossible. While reviewing the staff's files, detectives find out that Nurse Cullen has already been prosecuted for criminal negligence. Baldwin notes that the hospital was also in no hurry to release the results of its internal investigation. The police gut feeling is that there is more to the case than that. Meanwhile, Charlie is staying with Amy, rehearsing a school play with her daughters. When they arrive at work, they learn from their bosses about the investigation and the police involvement. All employees will be interviewed in the presence of a lawyer. Talking to the cops without one is tantamount to breach of contract. But the detectives see this excessive caution as an attempt to hide something. When Amy is questioned about the dead patient, the lawyer is distracted for a minute by a stranger. During this time, Baldwin shows the nurse the hospital report and asks if there is anything strange. Amy notes a suspicious blood sugar level, which means that someone gave the patient insulin, which is a double mistake and a potential cause of death. The lawyer returns, and the police ask if Charlie Cullen could have been involved in the incident. He denies it because he is a good doctor. Soon, another patient is near death. They try to resuscitate him, and Amy almost has a heart attack during a heart massage. Charlie takes a pill out of the safe and gives it to her to ease her condition. She points out that he could be fired for stealing the medication, but he knows how to cheat the system. Together, they go to a cardiologist's appointment. Charlie supports her morally, promising to help her hold out for 2 more months until she gets insurance. He also believes that her daughters should be warned about the disease, so that they can at least call an ambulance in case of emergency. Amy agrees and warns her eldest daughter. Detectives continue to gather information about Cullen by contacting his previous employers. However, no one is willing to discuss this employee, citing data confidentiality. An official internal investigation report comes from Parkfield Hospital, which takes several pages. Baldwin finds it suspicious, and he contacts the hospital's attorney. The lawyer is clearly uncooperative and wants to end the conversation as soon as possible. The detective accuses her of hiding evidence and covering up for the perpetrators, and then walks away. The accusation has the desired effect, and soon the cops receive a complete list of medications found in the victim's body. In addition to insulin, there is another drug that was mentioned in the case of Cullen's negligence at his previous place of work. However, the lawyer yelled at their superiors, and now the detectives are forbidden to appear at the hospital, as it is not yet possible to prove the crime. Meanwhile, while Amy is caring for a patient, Charlie calls her to the residence room for a snack. During the conversation, he complains about his ex-wife, who forbids him to see his children. Later, while talking to the patient, Amy notices that she is having problems with her perception of reality and memory. Realizing that these are symptoms of complications, she calls the woman's husband. After that, she notices the presence of insulin in the tests, which leads to a sharp deterioration in the patient's condition. Amy has to tell the arriving husband that his wife died while he was on his way. In the evening, detectives come to Amy's house. She thinks that their visit is related to the dead patient, but they have never even heard of it. The cops realize that the hospital has a new victim of a double mistake. Baldwin says that Cullen's career looks very suspicious. The cops ask Amy to help them and leave a business card in case she changes her mind. The woman begins to doubt the friendliness of her new colleague and starts avoiding Charlie. She meets with a former classmate who used to work with Cullen to ask her about the suspect. It turns out that there were bad rumors about Charlie, that he repeatedly added insulin to saline, and that after he was fired, the number of accidents dropped dramatically. When Amy returns to the hospital, she checks the bags of saline and finds a puncture wound, just as her friend said. The heroine loses consciousness from excitement and falls in the corridor. She regains consciousness in the ward, where Charlie is sitting next to her. Not wanting to expose herself to unnecessary danger, Amy refuses to be hospitalized and goes home with him so as not to arouse suspicion. However, she rejects his offer to stay overnight to look after her. The next day, Amy goes to the detectives to confirm their suspicions. She tells them about the killer's method of action. Insulin and another drug are slowly released into the bloodstream through saline, which is why death does not occur immediately. In addition, she confirms that the hospital's lawyer is covering up the incident by withholding most of the reports. To press criminal charges, detectives need to find a body with drug residue. Amy convinces the husband of the recently deceased patient to give permission to do so. In the hospital itself, during her shift, the heroine keeps an eye on Charlie, replacing the bags of solution after him with safe ones. She also prints out a report on what drugs he took from the safe, and the list includes the very same banned drug. With this evidence, the nurse and the detectives go to the police chief. However, due to a bug in the system Charlie uses, the evidence does not look very convincing. Cullen is summoned for questioning by the hospital management. They catch him lying on his job application and fire him for it. This is reported to the police, who are unhappy with this development because the doctor will be hired at another hospital, where the management will also turn a blind eye to strange coincidences to cover up their mistakes. When Amy returns home, she finds Charlie playing with her daughters, referring to an old friendship. After sending the girls to the bedroom, the heroine talks to a colleague. He offers to help with the housework while she works for 3 weeks until she receives her insurance. But Amy politely refuses and leaves to be with her daughters. As soon as the door closes behind him, Amy slumps to the floor and begins to cry from the stress. The next day, under police surveillance and on tape, she calls Charlie to apologize for yesterday. They agree to have lunch on Saturday. At the appointed time, Amy is waiting for him at the diner, and the detectives are listening in on the conversation. The doctor confesses that he has found a new job and is starting the night shift in the evening. Before he leaves, Amy tries to provoke him into a confession, recalling their work together and saying that she doesn't care if the rumors are true. Charlie is nervous when the other woman tries to take his hand. They sit opposite each other and look into each other's eyes in silence until the man turns the conversation to the children. His ex-wife has allowed him to see them. But Amy insists on bringing the conversation back to the hospital. Neither admitting nor denying his guilt, Charlie leaves, claiming that he needs to get to his new job in time. After he leaves, the detectives calm the girl down and ask her where the hospital where the suspect was admitted is located. Braun gives his colleagues a tip-off to apprehend Charlie on the way. Noticing police sirens behind him, Charlie does not try to resist and obediently pulls over to the side of the road. He is laid face down on the asphalt and handcuffed. Soon detectives visit the jail. Turning on a recorder, they begin interrogating the detainee. The cops say that they know about his dark deeds and his method of operation. Charlie doesn't want to discuss patients without the hospital's lawyer, but the detectives remind him that he no longer works there. Mentioning that Charlie's recent victims were women, Braun suggests that they reminded him of his mother, who died in the hospital when he was a child. As the detectives speculate, the doctor begins to cry. He refuses to look his interlocutors in the eye to the last. The policemen continue to press him morally until he becomes hysterical. Baldwin visits Amy to tell her that Charlie hasn't confessed. This means that he will be released from custody tomorrow morning. She spends the entire evening in heavy reflection, even watching a play put on by her daughter. After sunset, the heroine calls a detective and goes to visit Charlie in the police station. In the cell, she asks him to take off his handcuffs. The detainee asks her to leave, but instead she covers him with her sweatshirt and thanks him for his help in a difficult moment. Amy says that she cannot understand how such a kind person can kill people. Charlie replies that he only wanted to help her, and she asks him to do her one last favor, tell her the truth. Unable to resist, Charlie confesses that he did it and breathes a sigh of relief. But Amy and the detective need specific details. They ask for names. Although the killer doesn't remember all his victims, he immediately names several. When the heroine asks him why, the maniac replies that no one stopped him. To avoid the death penalty, Charlie confessed to 29 murders. However, police believe that the true number of his victims is about 400. He never explained his motives. Charlie Cullen is serving 18 life sentences with the right to parole not earlier than 2403. He worked as a doctor for 16 years, and despite all the suspicions, no hospital stopped him. No criminal proceedings have been opened against hospitals for concealing information. After her heart surgery, Amy moved to Florida, where she lives with her daughters and grandchildren. She is still an excellent nurse. If you have watched the video so far, you should know that I am happy to have viewers like you. Thank you for watching to the end. Subscribe to the channel and follow the news. Klonsak Recapped was with you. See you soon.